Welcome, doctors, soldiers, and glass constructs from the year 5,012,000 to the special 238th episode of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 25th of December, Christmas Day, 2017, and featuring Twice Upon a Time, the Doctor Who Christmas Special 2017, written by Stephen Moffat, and starring Peter Capaldi as the 12th Doctor, David Bradley as the First Doctor, Pearl Mackie as Bill Potts, Mark Gatiss as Captain Archibald Amish Lethbridge Stewart, and introducing Jodie Whittaker as the 13th Doctor. I am Bill Sylvie, the Man in Black, and with me are Mad Matt Winchell,
Nanu.
Randy Ronson McCulloch,
And Mark Gaddis's ego just got larger. It grew 3 sizes this day.
Aaron Romeo Moon Burke,
Hello.
Tim the Enchanter Sheridan,
Happy holidays!
and Thomas Fireheart.
I actually spent most of Christmas asleep.
Sleep in heavenly peace.
We're all here. We're all here.
We're all on time.
Yes.
Better look outside, folks. Hell might have froze over.
Well, by the looks of things out there, that's actually possible.
In Wisconsin, at least.
It is a whopping, 3 degrees outside?
And we're going to hit the negatives this week.
Yes.
I'm glad I found my long underwear.
Gonna be a
to
cold
go
walk.
I get to go outside in this in just a t-shirt and coat because I'll be walking from, from the parking lot into PT and back.
Yeah, it is -1 right now.
Oh, joy.
But we're going to have a high in the
Feels-
negatives
feels
this week.
like the wind chill is -15.
Jesus.
I had to shovel for about a half an hour today. I wasn't
Not
liking
gonna-
it.
Not going to be happy on Wednesday when I come out of PT with a shirt half soaked with sweat. And that's immediately going to hit the outside and freeze.
It's going to be the negatives, but hopefully the wind will die down by then.
Well, it's in the afternoon, so it might be okay. I don't know.
It might also be a few degrees better, yeah.
Maybe. It depends on if we've hit that shelf where it's actually warmer at night than it is during the day. Where the
Not
snow
quite yet.
Yeah, I don't think we got thick enough snow, because usually it's the snow that absorbs all of it and then slowly gives off heat at night. I'm never quite sure why, but that's the way it works. Anyway, on tonight's show, we have a very limited news format tonight. We're only going to be dealing with stuff directly related to the episode or Christmas. And then we're going to move on, because we don't want to spend all of our time talking about the news and other stuff. I do have a topical rant of the week. And then we're going to skip geek talk and anything else and go right to the 5-minute challenge. Although whose turn it is, I don't know.
Well, we ended with you, and you were full circle, so...
What's that?
We ended with you, and you were full circle, and I believe Bill picked up for the day you wanted off.
Okay.
So I think it's down to me and Tim, technically. Or
Okay.
Thomas as well.
One of y'all can do it. Anyway. And then, of course, our episode review, our final thoughts and ratings, which we hope to spend the majority of our time on. So moving on, we are skipping birthdays this week because there are no relevant birthdays, and we're going to go right to episode news. And let me tell you, there's not a lot of news. The first piece of news we have is that following the broadcast today, Doctor Who not only had the top place on Twitter, but also the 3rd and 4th places. Hashtag Doctor Who proved the most popular topic, with Jodie and Capaldi in 3rd and 4th, and only the topic Happy Christmas split the subjects in its 2nd place. Stephen Moffat was also in 14th place. So,
Afer Schreiber in the chat, you, Rant, never would have guessed.
Thank you, Sarah. But that's actually pretty surprising, for Doctor Who to beat out Happy Christmas on December 25th.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it didn't stay there, but still pretty darn surprising. Next piece is more of an informative article than anything else. The finale of this year's episode dealt with the 1914 Christmas armistice. I can't talk. Which was an actual event, but how well did they portray it? The answer is close, but not entirely accurate. Pretty much the beginning of it did kind of happen, as they said, but mind you, World War I was the last, I guess you could say, the last civil in the more of the social aspect rather than civil meaning internal war, where the opposing sides were both friendly and hostile to each other. You got to remember that people basically were out there in these trenches for months at a time. And yes, they were pointing guns at each other, but they also were close enough to shout stuff back and forth. So there are actual many cases of soldiers between lines exchanging news, mostly sports related, and talking to each other. And opposing armies would even have a sing-along sometime together. And that is what started the Christmas armistice. For some reason, I can't say that word.
Armistice?
But, yeah, it's just one of these things where it just spontaneously happened. They just started singing, and that led to this big ceasefire that happened for Christmas Day. We do know that they did socialize in no man's land. Few of them traded gifts. One account mentions a British soldier having his hair cut by a German barber. Another one even noted soldiers enjoying a pig roast in between the trenches. So yes, they had a barbecue in no man's land. There are a few cases where they did play football versus each other, but normally it was usually some Germans versus one Scottish regiment or another. Apparently one of the more famous ones, the final score was 3-2 in favor of the Germans.
Ooh.
The Argyll and Southern Highlanders did beat the Germans 4-1. And the Royal Artillery drew with their opposition, and the Lancaster Fusiliers won 3-2 in their ration tin ball game. So, some of the things that we do see there in this episode did actually happen. However, it didn't happen everywhere. There were parts of the line where fighting continued, and there were cases where people were shot trying to instigate this truce, but their officers said no. And how long this truce lasted varied per area. Some places it was just only a day. In some cases, they took the full week off and didn't come back till after the New Year. And they were also incorrect about it not happening again. It never happened to this extent. But in 1915, there are a few reported cases of a ceasefire on Christmas where people did do some of the stuff like this. Including football matches. So yes, this is plausible, but it probably wouldn't have gone down exactly like that. All right, so that's it for episode news. Now we go to cast and crew news. Aaron?
Yes, where Stephen Moffat talks a little bit about what it was like to bring Jenna Coleman back onto the show, despite her incredibly hectic schedule filming ITV's Victoria series. In fact, she was scheduled to shoot a 2-hour special episode, I believe. If I can find it.
Something like this. They had a Christmas special as well.
Yeah, it was basically that. And they had to work around it quite a bit. And despite all of that, they were still able to get her on. Of course, for those of us who have seen the Christmas special now, she shows up towards the end of the episode in a dream sequence. And it's a pretty touching dream sequence.
We spoiled Jenna's appearance.
Spoiled
Podcast
Gemma's
ruined.
appearance.
0 out of 10.
No.
You ruined it. Spoilers. Game over.
We're here to talk about the episode. If you haven't seen it and are worried about spoilers, you probably should have
We've
turned
already
off
given two. We've already given the two big ones. So yeah.
No, I'm going to say if the fact that you haven't seen the episode and you're worried about spoilers, you should have turned off at the point where you said, tonight we're talking about the Doctor Who Christmas special.
I know a lot of people who hate spoilers are starting to be a lot more proactive about that stuff. They just stop listening or watching anything. They avoid everything.
There is
if
a reason.
They're serious about it.
There is a reason that we give a little time, half an hour or so, after the BBC America broadcast ends, before we start our stream, to give people a chance to digest the episode too.
Mm-hmm.
A few of us have a chance to see it earlier.
Mm-hmm. So, and really, that's the main point of this article here, is that it was just incredibly hard to get her to show up to shoot this special cameo appearance for the end of the episode, and it's actually a pretty substantial cameo too. It lasts for two whole minutes at least. It's not some flickering image and then she's gone. She's there and talks to him for a short time.
I think the Moffat quote toward the end is worth mentioning.
Let's see here. I believe the one about where he's talking about the Sherlock writer?
No.
How many times he's killed her off?
Oh yeah. Well, yeah. That's part of it. Yes.
The whole one, though, from the beginning of that, from the he said.
He said, I had to phone Jenna, who was incredibly busy on Victoria, incredibly busy. It was a ridiculous schedule. She was well up for it, but it was complicated to arrange. The very, very last thing I ever shot on Doctor Who was, in fact, Jenna's bit. How many times have I killed that girl off? And she was right there in my last shot, Moffat added. It's absolutely extraordinary.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
She just won't die. She just won't die.
Hi, Kenny.
She's the impossible girl.
Alright, and if you want to, he hailed, earlier this year, BBC Director General Lord Tony Hall hailed Moffat's reign. He said of the Sherlock writer, he's continued to surprise and delight us. He's a master craftsman, ingenious, adventurous, and great fun, and I can't wait to see what he does next. So
I can.
now we know who's hiring Moffat next. The one with firmly Moffat's dick in his mouth.
You guys said I went too far on that last week.
That's basically what this dude sounds like. I mean, Moffat's writing is flawed. Quite flawed. We've seen that, at least as a showrunner it is.
As a
Speaking of
showrunner,
spoilers,
as a writer, if he's given enough time, he can write gold. We saw that under RTD when he wrote one episode a year, or at least one storyline a year.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
He wrote some of the best storylines in season 1 through 4.
Mm-hmm.
Taking over a showrunner where he had to do, about 5-6 episodes a year? Plus, try to manage everyone else's, and yeah, it just immediately his quality went through the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does not write under stress.
He's not a good writer under a time axe. And that shows. He took a lot of time to write the 50th anniversary special, and that was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
He had a month between that to write that and Time of the Doctor, and Time of the Doctor was crap.
mm-hmm.
So anyway,
it's like when he has this, he doesn't have enough time to go back and go, why did I write this? This was rubbish. Let me write something else.
Mm-hmm.
anywho,
Yes.
Anywho,
DVDs.
Yes. Video releases. Tim.
internet releases. The Twice a Time on a Time special is getting a DVD release from BBC Worldwide on January 22nd, and for those of us in the US, it will be released on February 13th. Extra features are included and they're listed as the Doctor Who Extra, The End of an Era, and Doctor Who Panel San Diego Comic-Con 2017. Also, Amazon has confirmed the disc will come with a 12 certificate. The BBFC hasn't listed the release on its website yet, so it's impossible to clarify what the 12 is for.
Yeah, that's a higher rating than it usually gets. So we'll see what's on there that's causing them to criticize. But yeah, like they said, this does not reflect the U.S. release, which is the 13th of February. It's probably going to have similar extra features, since really it's just a region-formatted version of the disc that's released over here. But we'll see what's on it at that time. All right, going to our last bit of news. It's Big Finish news. It's Bill.
All right, so we've got a couple of releases, starting with the First Doctor short trips, O Tannenbaum, starring or narrated by Peter Purves and written by Anthony Ketch. It's Christmas time. There's no need to be afraid. The TARDIS has landed in a winter wonderland, and the weather outside is frightful. A world of dread and fear, and it's not just the frost that is cruel. It's Christmas Eve, but will the Doctor and Stephen get to see another one? And of all the trees in the wood, who really bears the crown?
Is it me, or does the Doctor and Stephen get like all the Christmas specials?
I think that might be correct.
Pretty much so far.
Because I think he was he already dealing with the crew when they did that break on Master Plan? Or not?
Master Plan, that was toward the end. Sarah may have been with them. But definitely the Doctor and Stephen were there. It was, the name of the episode was The Feast of Stephen.
Yeah.
So I think he was also there for Massacre on St. Bartholomew's Eve, which was Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And now this, so yeah, it's apparently there. If the First Doctor has a Christmas, it's with Stephen.
The First Doctor got a lot of Christmases then.
Yep.
Strung them all in a row, practically.
Well, he had to make up for those 500 years he didn't have one.
We've also got another First Doctor release, and this one's substantially larger. And we've already gone over the blurbs and everything for it, so no need to repeat that. But the First Doctor Adventures Volume 1, featuring the first appearance on audio of David Bradley, as well as the rest of the new First Doctor crew, with Claudia Grant as Susan, Gemma Powell as Barbara, and Jamie Glover as Ian, is out now. The stories are The Destination Wars by Matt Fitton and The Great White Hurricane by Guy Adams. And I actually just checked the download. Each one's about, one of them's 2 hours, the other's a little over an hour and a half, so they're decent length stories. But those are out now.
This is part of Big Finish's holiday special, the 12 Days of Big Finishmas.
Yeah.
And this is number 1.
And that doesn't have any extra discount, although some First Doctor and Susan Companion Chronicles do have a discount.
Yeah, I was going to say, I originally saw the price at the bottom. I said they're selling this for $3. Nope. I wish.
I would have been so mad for pre-ordering it for $20.
Yeah.
And also I forgot to mention, but if you've been paying attention to the podcast, you already know this. This features the first appearance of James Dreyfus as the first Master, or at least a pre-Delgado Master. Well, yeah, they did say first incarnation.
Yeah.
But that's about it on that one, since we've covered that in detail already.
Yep. And that's it for the news. We are trying to keep it light here. And that leads me to my rant section, which I'm really just kind of doing a little seasonal rant here. If you remember last week, I did a bit on holiday courtesy with lights and sound. This time I want to talk a bit about Christmas itself and what it means to us here and what it means across the world. Christmas, of course, started out as a celebration of the birth of Christ, except that's not true. If we were actually celebrating the birth of Christ, Christmas would be about somewhere between Labor Day and Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
We think.
Something like roughly around that area.
Somewhere around there. Somewhere around the end of September, beginning of October. At least as far as we can tell. So why do we celebrate in September? Because there was already a holiday in September worshipped by a lot of the pagan people in Europe. The Yule ceremony, which basically was a giant party in the middle of winter, a giant drunken orgy party, which the church then took over and basically made, instead of drinking and partying, you go to mass. And of course that didn't
Then you
go
go
over
home
so
and drink
well,
and
so
party.
people drank and had drunken orgies anyway, which is why Christmas was banned for about 300, 400, 500 years. And only brought out in about the early to mid 18th century. People were still having parties, but they had to keep it on the down low. Brought out about the early 1800s, late 1700s, somewhere in there. And it came out, and it got a facelift since those early days.
Now I'm wondering
Now-
what the Victorians did with Christmas.
They were influenced by Dickens and the like. So it became more of this family Christmas that we have today.
That's right. Actually, now that you said that, I remember seeing something recently that it had kind of it was a less popular holiday that kind of revitalized when Dickens wrote about it.
Exactly. And of course, in the 20th century, we've had the birth of the commercial Christmas. Which parts of it were already part of Christmas. The Santa Claus bit, I think, came out originally in the early days, but got a massive revitalization in the 1800s, but has really become the mascot of commercial Christmas, let's face it.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But that's just what we do here and what in Europe they do, because, of course, our society patterns followed Europe in that aspect. Also, it's pretty much the same in South America, because after all, the Spanish pretty much killed 80% of the indigenous population.
And then took over.
And then force assimilated the rest.
Mm-hmm.
So they got their version of Christmas from the Spanish and the Portuguese, who basically have that. But really, these are the only countries that celebrate Christmas in the same way we do, if at all. Africa may celebrate it on some of the coasts, especially in some areas, but they have the strong Muslim Islamic influence in North Africa. It's really only the port cities that used to be Portuguese ports along the western coast that would
pretty
celebrate
much
it
all
at
of the
all.
coasts were colonized by European powers at one point or another. So I'm not surprised if there's a bit going on there.
But you get into main Central Africa, it's not there. Big chunks of Eastern Africa, not really, because they're busy fighting each other anyway. And then you've got the parts that Islam does not celebrate Christmas at all, which is why we don't see much Christmas at all in the Middle East. Because other than Israel, that's almost all Islam, and Israel doesn't really celebrate Christmas because they don't believe Christ as being the Son of God. That's not their religion, that's ours. There are a couple of Catholic churches there, or Christian churches in Israel, in Jerusalem in particular. And they may do stuff for Christmas, but that's really just the secular Christmas. It's incomplete Christmas as it is. So then, of course, that takes us to Asia. And Asia's a mixed bag because most places in Asia either have religion banned or are Buddhist. So don't celebrate Christmas. There's exceptions of that are Macau and Hong Kong, which were, of course, colonized by the British. India along the coasts and the major cities also do have Christmas because, of course, the British ran that for a while. And Australia has Christmas because they were
Originally
colonized
British.
by the British, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know about post-Soviet Russia? Because I hadn't thought about it. I'm not sure if they're mostly Orthodox at this point or if they're still mostly
If they follow
atheist
Christmas
or what.
at this point, it's probably the strictly religious point that would be from the Russian Orthodox Church or whatever remained of it after communism got through. I think mostly, though, there's no defined parts of Christmas. In a way, that's similar with Japan. There's no official Christmas in Japan. Technically, people have off for it as a holiday at the moment because the birthday of the current emperor Akihito is on the 23rd. So a lot of places take Akihito's birthday as the starting point for basically a holiday week and a half. So they get the day off there, but it's not because of Christmas. prior to Akihito's ascension, no, there was no official Christmas holiday. And what the Japanese have picked up from Christmas, they picked up from American soldiers. So all in all, they pretty much embraced the commercial aspect of Christmas. Christmas over there has become a romantic part, where you trade gifts with your loved one and eat KFC. And I'm not kidding about that.
Yeah, KFC is very popular around Christmas time over there.
And this is because in the 1970s, Kentucky Fried Chicken pulled a massive snow job on the people of Japan and informed them that it was the perfect American tradition to eat KFC chicken on Christmas. And they fell for it.
Again, they fell for the commercialism.
So now, whereas if I had wanted KFC today, I couldn't get it because KFCs are closed in the United States on Christmas. There, you have to pre-order your chicken.
Oh yeah, like weeks in advance.
Because they've got waiting lists.
Mm-hmm.
It's their busiest day of the year. So figure that one out. Also, of course, South Korea has that same kind of commercial Christmas aspect. North Korea, it's banned.
Well, obviously.
Go figure. Yes. So we all look at Christmas in very different ways across the world. And it never means the same exact thing to two people. Even in the United States, it varies very much. Because I'm almost purely about the commercial aspect of Christmas these days. If you know, I'm not a very religious person. I have no issues with God, but I have plenty with religion, so I ignore it. So, you know, I slowly look at the commercial aspects. I know there's some parts there where religion and commercial cross over. Our tree has a star on it, mostly because I don't like angels on the tree. If you're wondering why, look where that treetop goes on an angel, and think of how badly that would hurt.
Whoopa!
But, you know, I kind of take them hand in hand. I deal with it. I'm cool with it. I move on. I just spent the last week basically doing Christmas baking, made a great Christmas Eve dinner, which I've been munching on as leftovers for all day, and now I should probably stop.
Had a beef stew.
And I've got more Christmas cookies than, you know, I could possibly eat in this year. But you know, Christmas for me is a time for baking, a time for some traditions, and to celebrate it with family and friends. That's what Christmas means to me. For other people, there's a lot more religious. You got to go to Mass. You got to do this. You know.
For me, it's the time when things I've needed to buy all year go on sale so I can actually buy shit for the house.
And for me, Christmas Day is also really old Christmas movies. I mean really old, like black and white. Like Bing Crosby Christmas movies. And I could care less about them the rest of the year, so.
Unless, of course, it's also a particular Disney variation of it.
No.
Oh?
This might be the only Christmas where I haven't watched a slasher movie.
I watched Batman Returns, and I'm going to do a review on that before the month's up.
But anyway, I just wanted to bring that up for a bit, and to kill a little time, since we have plenty, but it's now 10:30, and that's going to give us an hour and a half to talk about tonight's episode.
We're probably not going to fill that, but we can definitely try.
Oh, you might be surprised, Matt. You might be surprised.
I think we'll need more than 5 minutes for the summary to start with. At least my notes were probably at least 8 minutes long.
Well, we'll see, considering it's down to Matt, Tim, and Thomas. Tim having record short summaries. Matt usually getting it in under the 5-minute clock. So which one of you is it going to be? Who wants to win Ben Stein's money?
Type rock, paper, scissors in the chat.
Okay, rock, paper.
Tim's taking it seriously. Let's do it. Let's do it in the podcast chat.
Throw up like a Goku placeholder image then.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, shoot.
Apparently that didn't work too well.
Nope. So never mind. Do either of you two want to do it?
Oh, I guess I can do it if people will accept me.
Okay.
All right, Tim, go for it. I have the clock ready whenever you're down for this.
Okay, I'm ready.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so the Doctor and the Doctor meet in the South Pole, and they say, I don't want to regenerate. Neither do I. But if you don't regenerate, then I can't regenerate. And then World War One guy shows up and says, "What's going on?" And like, come with the TARDIS. Says, "This is not my." The Doctor says, "This isn't my TARDIS. No, it's my TARDIS. I'm your future." Oh, but you're old. No, I'm not. You're. And then a weird glass lady comes and takes the TARDIS away into her ship and says, "If you don't release the captain to us, we won't let you meet this person." And the first Doctor is like, "Who's that?" "Oh, Bill, it's the Doctor." And like, no, it's like, "You're not Bill." Like, "Yes, I am." And then the two Doctors meet the uh the glass lady, and the first Doctor is like, "Wait a minute. You're asymmetrical." Dun, dun, dun. It's like, I know. If we can find out the person that face is based on, we'll have the answer. And then the 12th Doctor is like, I know. We can go to the biggest database in the universe. And it turns out to be the Daleks, and it's the Dalek that the Doctor went inside of.
Oh my.
Yeah, and it turns out that the the weird glass lady is from the year 5 billion, and she's been going throughout, traveling back in time, taking people at the moment of their deaths, and then downloading their memories into a computer database to live on. But and then he returns the people to the moment that they died, so that they still die, but their memories live on. And the Doctor's like, "Well, I'm not sure if this is an evil plan or not. So I'm not, what do I do with this, you know?" And then they return the captain to World War One, and it turns out that it's the Christmas Day armistice. So the captain doesn't die, or at least he doesn't die that day. And oh yeah, he's I guess he's supposed to be Lethbridge Stewart's great grandfather or grandfather or whatever. He's a Lethbridge Stewart is what's important. And the first Doctor says, "Well, Doctor, you know, you've inspired me to regenerate." And so he goes off and regenerates, and then the Doctor says to Bill, and like, "I don't think you're Bill, but is like you're just memories." Like, "Well, what are memories?" Like, "Memories are important. I'll show you." And then it's like, "Oh, look, it's Clara. Oh, that's nice." And then the Doctor goes back to the TARDIS and leaves some notes to the next Doctor, and says, "Oh, don't be an asshole," basically, which is always good advice. And then the 12th Doctor regenerates into the 13th Doctor, and she presses a button, and she gets blown off the TARDIS, and she's falling to her death. The end.
Tim's just like, fuck Nardole. We don't need to talk about him.
Yeah.
He
I
barely
forgot
got half a
Nardole.
minute. 4 minutes and 3 seconds, Tim. Just in time.
We made it under.
Oh, yay.
I had 4 minutes 475, but yeah. I might have had a little bit of a lag in shutting it down. Either way. So now we are going to talk about the good aspects of the episode overall and what we liked about it in general. And Bill, you are first.
Okay, I think I'm going to go with the visuals, especially actually, do I have the name of the planet in front of me? But the planet that Rusty was on, with all of the little spider Daleks, Villengard. I think that one was very well done visually.
All right. Yeah, that was kind of impressive. It was better the second time I went through it because the first time I had a very bad version of it that all the color was washed out mostly.
Ooh,
So
Wait, which one are we talking about? I missed it.
the Dalek planet.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
yeah, Bill really liked that.
Hmm.
I had to admit the visual was interesting, intriguing, especially that planet or moon that was
Yeah, moonlet that
erupting or
was
exploding.
got fire spewing out of it.
When I saw that, I thought it was like a Time War thing, but apparently not.
Either that
Yeah.
or the Daleks
Well, it's
just wrecked
apparently a
havoc,
Dalek
but-
war thing, is what that is probably.
Mhm.
Well, yeah, that's
almost
true.
almost a Dalek Civil War thing, yeah.
It
Dalek
seems
Civil
more like
War,
it's a
dude.
human versus dog thing, and this is where this
No,
one dog has
It
stood
seems
its
to be
ground
a-
against the Daleks.
A one Dalek versus many Dalek thing.
That's what it's
Well,
turned
yeah, I
into,
guess.
yeah.
I mean, I guess he came from a human versus Dalek war, so
Yeah.
that war might still be going on.
Mm-hmm.
Dalek John McClane. All right, Tim, how about you? What was your favorite part of the episode overall?
Overall, my favorite part of the episode was David Bradley.
Mm-hmm.
Ah, I wish I could say I felt the same, but I found David Bradley's meter of talking to be a little disjointing for me.
Compared
Sometimes-
to Herndal, better, worse, same.
I think Herndal's meter was better. His voice was better. Bradley looked the part more. But my problem with Bradley's voice is it almost sounded like he was old school Cybermanning a few times. The way he paused was like where a Cyberman would pause.
There was one scene that I felt that way, so I know what you're talking about.
There was 2 or 3 that I felt that way. I didn't know. I wonder if he sat down and watched 10th Planet before acting his scenes. And for whatever
Kind of
reason,
kind of unconsciously picked up the wrong voice.
picked up the cyber meter, yeah.
Hmm.
Because there were times that he would talk and he would kind of pause where the Cybermen would pause. And it just would get at me. The first time was even worse because, like I said, what I was watching it on was screwed up. So not only was our picture bad, but our sound was flat. So he really sounded tinny and I could really hear it.
Hmm.
And once you hear it, you can't unhear it.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, no, there are some scenes that he did that I absolutely love. So I can't say everything bad about David Bradley in this, no.
Okay.
Thomas, how about you?
I'd say the interactions between how, at least generally moments where they show what the Doctor's came from to what he is now as far as relation to companions go. Like every time he'd be like, "Ah yes, this place needs a good dusting," like and all that kind of shit. Was all like, you can tell like just the reaction of like Capaldi's Doctor made those always fun. So that
Yeah, he was absolutely horrified and ashamed by the casual sexism or racism that was put out by that. Although it does kind of make your brain go sideways as to looking back on those old episodes. It's like, well, I'm going to take a nap. Barbara, would you dust the TARDIS? Yeah, no.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about that. Matt, how about you?
You kind of hinted at it a little bit, but just overall, the reactions between the first and the 12th Doctor
They
were
did
usually
play
just
off.
the highlights
just-
for me.
They did play off each other very well.
Mm-hmm.
If they ever have another multi-Doctor episode, they should have to break off with teams with 10 and 11 having to go with each other, and 1 and 12.
Hmm.
Just because they both of those actors feed off each other very well.
Who does 13 get
Both
teamed
those
up with?
We don't know yet.
Yeah, that's a thing.
I haven't seen enough of that to gauge it yet.
13 and 11, maybe?
I don't know. We'll have to. I can't gauge it.
I was going
We
to say
have one scene of acting and one line of dialogue.
I was gonna say her one line of dialogue. I would almost pair her with 10, but a lot can change between.
Well, I don't
first
know.
line and the second.
I want to talk about that at the end of this.
Anyway, yeah.
Mhm.
So, Matt, that was what you went with?
Yep, the chemistry between the two Doctors was pretty good.
Okay. Aaron, how about you? What did you like about the episode overall?
I liked kind of the theme of it being kind of a reversal. Instead of staving off death, they're trying to stave off life. They don't want to regenerate anymore. They don't want to regenerate because they want to die as themselves. They think that's they've hit their prime, and this becomes more about the 12th Doctor convincing the first Doctor to regenerate, so that his own timeline isn't broken. I thought it was going to be more about the first Doctor teaching the 12th Doctor that he needs to regenerate and move on and everything too, but it was kind of the opposite for me. So I kind of like that kind of aspect of the two Doctor relationship. So
yeah, at the same time, it was a little bit emo in that way.
mm-hmm.
No, I don't want to live. I want to die. Just let me die. Also a little bit egoist because, of course, especially on the part of the 12th of, yes, I want to die as me, but you're not just you. You've never been just you. You're you and everybody that's come before you.
Although
By
at least
yourself.
12 has that kind of point in the sense that his incarnation never should have existed, and he only really did for the purpose of saving Trenzalore and the Time Lords. So
He's done
by
his job.
by everything he knows, he should not exist right now. So I can kind of see that part.
Fat lot of good saving the Time Lords did, fucking pricks.
Yeah.
Suck up assholes.
All right, so what I really liked, I really was fond of the score. Because, of course, at the end of this, we're saying goodbye to Murray Gold as well as the rest of the production team. And this really kind of came across as a fillet of Murray Gold's greatest hits. I heard 3-4 songs that we knew and love from Murray Gold's era.
Mm-hmm.
I really wish they would have found a way to play I Am the Doctor somewhere in there, because that would have made it like the Grand Slam tour.
Well, they should play it at the end.
What's that?
They should have played it at the end.
I feel like, considering what happened in that scene, that a triumphant victory music would not have fit.
No, it would have worked though. When
Right
the
after the
Doctor was...
regeneration, though.
No, right after the point where the Doctor had heard from the soldier. Yeah, I had made a promise to my wife I'd go home from Christmas, and you see him just get this idea and start changing the TARDIS's course. That would have been a good point to play that.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the point where wherever you heard that song, you knew that everything was going to be all right.
He's got a plan, and he's going to do it now.
Mm-hmm. But no, it was really kind of good to hear these old classics, and kind of sad to know that we'll never hear them again on a New Who episode, because, of course, the next composer is going to have their own ideas. They'll set up a whole new set of themes. At the same time, Murray Gold's best work was in 10s and 11s era.
Mm-hmm.
And
He's felt tired lately.
Yeah, he seemed a little pale in the 12th Doctor era, which was kind of bad because 12 was a better Doctor than 11. But
Yeah,
Hmm.
better written at
Uh,
least.
yeah.
Also,
All right. So that's what we liked about the episode overall. What about what we didn't like? And Bill, you're up first.
Speaking of writing, all right. So this, I mean, I almost went with something slightly off, but the fact that Stephen Moffat made a promise about this kind of elevated its issue. The whole thing about chauvinism, um, there's multiple facets to this complaint, and one is that the most sexist we had ever seen the first Doctor was in the Five Doctors. And that was kind of one scene where he was a little over the line, but not, not insane. Where they kind of flanderize it in this episode and kind of take it to an extreme.
There are a couple other examples. The line that he uses in this to Bill about a good
the one that he had
Samaritan.
only ever used to his granddaughter that he
Yes.
was,
Mhm.
family with.
Mhm.
And then there's the whole fact that Moffat was like, "Oh, we're going to deal with this. It's going to be an issue that's dealt with." And the most that the issue is dealt with is the 12th Doctor being embarrassed by it, and that's really about it.
Mhm.
Well, and then Bill going,
Even-
haha, we're going to
yeah.
talk about this a lot, and I'm
Even-
going to choke at your expense.
Like, even when he was like, "Says who," and you think maybe he's going to actually, explain, this is a problem. He's just like, "Oh, people won't like it in the future," and then that's the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
Like, really?
Mhm.
Like,
It's
what
again.
about the whole? Yeah.
It's again Moffat overhyping something and failing
Right.
to deliver on that hype.
As usual.
Oh yeah, we can give a few dozen times that the things were overhyped and failed to deliver.
Mhm.
Asylum
Snowmen.
of the Daleks, the Snowmen, Journey to the Center of the TARDIS.
Yeah.
He's a decent hype man, but he's not delivering on his promises. And this is another one where it's,
Friends
we're going to
alone.
address this, and it's not happening. Yeah. Is there anything further, Bill?
No, I think I touched on all the major parts of that.
All right, Tim, how about you? What didn't you like about this episode?
I didn't like the philosophical theme that they seem to be presenting, like of the importance of memories. It's like if someone were to die, but you kept the memories alive, that means that they would be alive. It's like,
Yeah, it seems like they've taken that old quote, "A man is a sum of his memories," and
Time Lord's doubly so.
Time Lord's doubly so, and they've just decided to take that to heart literally.
yeah. Because personally, I'm a believe that memories are important, but there's like an undefinable spark to each of us that is
Yeah.
like
You're
needs to be added.
You're talking about the soul, essentially.
Yeah.
That kind of comes into play in other things too, like how in Star Trek, basically they kill you every time you step on a transporter. But when they give the memories to the new you, it comes out okay.
Yeah, that's always been a question about Star Trek transporters, and they've mostly just danced around it.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've had a deep philosophical discussion about that once in a chat room.
Mm.
It was interesting, but it was also well over a decade ago, so I remembered none of it.
And that's why I've always said, like, if I ever had the opportunity to go on a transporter, I don't think I would.
It would, for me, it's a situational thing, I think. If it's step on a transporter or get plowed over by molten hot lava, I'll take the transporter, thank you.
Oh, no.
Because at least, if it kills me, at least it's not going to hurt.
It'll be instantaneous.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Thomas, how about you? What didn't you like about the episode?
There's probably a few things, but the main thing that came to mind was how derivative the regeneration sequence felt. It just kind of felt like, throws his arms out, there's exploding and shit in the TARDIS, and then the TARDIS kind of shits itself after the regeneration happens, and it's
Yeah.
like, we've kind of seen this before.
Well,
Seen it three
kinda-
times before.
Oh no. This was I had turned to Aaron right after we were done. It's like, yeah, it looks like Moffat's trying to leave his predecessor in the same way that he started with. Because that's basically what Moffat was left with when he took over, was Ten's regeneration, which that was closest to.
Yeah.
Well, apparently, who's taking over again? I'm trying to remember his name.
Chibnall.
Apparently, Chibnall's the one who wrote that last scene, so...
Yeah, that's true. And technically, Moffat wrote 11's scene.
So both of them are already writing exactly the same. Oh god, help us. Throw me out the doors, Hal.
Yeah, that's a little worrying.
I'll cut my
We-
air
we-
supply right now and just save us all the pain.
The pain of it all. Yeah, we'll have to see what the
The
Balchinian
pain.
does next year.
Oh boy.
By the way, Matt, it's your up.
My up. The thing I like the least about this. You know what? I'm gonna go for their guest appearances on this that I like the least. The guest appearances, we had two of them. We had Clara and we had Matt. What's his name? Character's
Matt
name
Lucas as Nardle.
Nardle. Both of them. You guys were talking about how it was so nice that they were there. They barely made more than like half a minute guest appearance each,
Yes,
and
Matt.
padded it out with cuts in between, just because padding it out. It's
That's still more than your average companion gets in a regeneration special, where it's normally one line. And it's usually just them saying doctor, and usually from stock footage.
Eh. It still felt meh.
Although, you go back and you think about the doctor regenerations in the past, and the amount of people he would have to say goodbye to.
And this one didn't have nearly as many.
Yeah.
So that's why they would have gotten the amount of time they already got. So
Because he got Clara and Bill and Nardle, and that's it.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. How many times has the Doctor regenerated alone?
Alone. Let's see.
First.
The first to second was technically alone.
Second to third was technically alone without any companions.
Mm-hmm. Third to fourth was in front of people, so that wouldn't count.
That wouldn't count.
Fourth to fifth was in front of people. Fifth to sixth was in front of Perry. Sixth to seventh was basically...
I think Mel was unconscious.
Mel was unconscious, but
Yeah.
the Ronnie was looking at him.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that still doesn't count.
7 to 8, he was alone.
7 to 8, he was technically alone. So that's
He
three.
was alone and freaking in a morgue drawer.
A mortuary drawer, yeah.
Let's see, 8 to 9. No, he had the sisters watching. Or no, that was 8 to War. War to 9, he was 8 to War. He had the sisters watching. War to 9, he was alone.
So that's 4.
9 to 10 had Rose there. 10 to 11 was alone. 11 to 12 had Clara.
Yeah.
And 12 to 13 was alone.
So it's
Okay.
6. Half of them.
Yeah, more or less.
Oh.
And that's just referring to the physical change itself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I was just wondering, like, if he had regenerated into the 13th Doctor in front of someone, how would that...
The way regenerations have been lately, that person would be burnt to a crisp.
Not necessarily would have been confused and things.
Well,
But
with
yeah,
the way the TARDIS was blowing up,
I
though.
am getting sick of the explosive Destroy
Explosive
everything.
regenerations. Yeah, that's getting
Yeah.
silly.
Yeah.
Like if there's
and
enough energy to destroy a Dalek fleet, I think that would destroy a human companion.
No, it's not that, Bill. It's just the fact that it's just an excuse for the production company to change the set every time.
Mm.
And that's a bit annoying for me. It's
Well, they haven't really changed it. It's been
mind you-
just glowy.
No, they've changed it. Think about when they went from Tennant to Smith, and you had the big blow up the coral set, and then they had that weird semi-steampunky set.
And then notice that they did not need that to happen to make that same change 2 seasons later.
Correct.
Or 2.5.
Mm.
And now here we are again with them blowing up the TARDIS because the new production staff is going to want a new set. God damn it. And of course this annoys me because I loved that set.
Mm-hmm.
That was
What are they going to
beautiful
do with a new
TARDIS.
set? They're going to screw it up, aren't they?
And you don't even have to, considering even this Doctor alone has just kind of like, oh yeah, I just decided to redecorate.
Mhm. They're apparently going to give him a new sonic screwdriver too, which annoys me because they just got that one this season.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so who are we on? We were on bad aspects.
That was me.
So, Aaron.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say that I actually didn't like Bill Potts in this episode. I liked her during the season. I like her as a companion, but I feel like they should have had her. Instead of her, they should have had Susan. Well, with all the teasing of Susan that they did the first episode, especially of this past season, they should have had Susan walking through that door. And it was really just, it was kind of a letdown, and it felt like I was being trolled when I watched the silhouette
You
kinda
were
go through the door.
you were being trolled.
Yeah,
Yeah,
even
because-
though we'd been told like a million times that Bill Potts was going to be in the
No,
episode,
that's not,
and that
not
was
what
all
I'm.
that.
That's not what I'm talking about. You just got to
Mhm.
remember, Stephen Moffat is a troll.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
A for Sharper in the
Yeah.
chat, by the way, merchandising.
Yeah. And it's
Uh.
just, I don't know. I was really let down. It was their chance to really kind of make the episode stand out, and I think it would have had a much bigger impact. It would have been the episode to do this with,
Yeah.
to bring her back.
Yeah,
with.
like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, especially considering the whole setup of they can be anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, whether they're alive or dead, it seems.
They did
It's
it with Polly and Ben. They had different actors for Polly and Ben that looked fairly similar to the original people.
True, but I mean, Susan, and there is no canonical death for Susan at this point. We don't know if she survived the Time War or not.
Mm-hmm.
And even with the whole year 5 billion thing, I don't know if I'd want them to kill off Susan just for the sake of bringing back a memory of her.
Well, the thing is that they wouldn't have had to kill her off. They wouldn't have had to bring back a memory of her. They could have just had it be her.
Not
Take
not
her
with
out of
not with this
time.
setup though, because they
Yeah, that's not what
the
the setup
testimony
is.
thing was only taking dead people and making them into glass sculptures, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Living
And
ones,
they
but-
needed to have the glass sculpture on the TARDIS to deal with the ending.
Maybe it was the time to handle Susan as, if she had died and, when it had happened and everything like that. It would have even been more poignant and tragic. If she shows up as a glass sculpture and he's like, how did this happen? When did it happen? And then she has to go back and explain, everything that's happened to her. And how she ended up in the testimony. So...
I actually have to, by the way, go the opposite of Matt on that he didn't like the guest appearances. I liked them for almost the same aspects we're arguing here, is the fact that they gave closure to those characters. We now know if they're part of the testimony, that means that they lived their life and they died.
Yeah.
So
I guess finally gives us clarity of Clara specifically.
It gives us closure on Clara, it gives us closure on Nardal, it gives us closure on Bill. They had their lives, they're done.
Although noteworthy, it seems that if your body is destroyed and your memories are transferred to a new liquid form, that they get, they recognize that as a death, even though we saw that there was a new living form of Bill last episode that they don't seem to have memories from.
Yeah.
So that was interesting. So there's basically two memory bills that are neither one.
So
is
they're not
involved.
closing. Thank you for ruining that for me.
Yeah, I was about to say, actually, no,
Sorry.
Randy, they broke that rule to end the show on.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, these things are imperfect. This doesn't close anything.
Oh, god damn it.
They
God.
close
Unless it
nothing,
just
Randy.
turns out that
Good
that whole
day,
Although-
you lose, sir.
hallucination.
This would have been the
Another-
perfect episode to have CGI Matthew Waterhouse.
Yeah. Actually, yeah. Why not bring Matthew Waterhouse? Or, well, you can't bring
Not the
Matthew
real guy,
Waterhouse.
yeah.
Hi,
Yeah.
Doctor.
Archive
Remember me?
footage.
Fuck you for leaving me to die.
You're an asshole, Doctor.
Just that would actually be kind of haunting.
Go back and
Him
save
kissed-
Adric and then save Amy.
Well, that would actually be awesome. Horrible, is to have the testimonials for like Katarina and Sarah Kingdom.
Oh,
And
They
Adric.
could have
Yeah.
done that. It's
Now-
their first Doctor
more
Now,
close,
companions
more
that
closure, but
died.
instead they
That
reverse
said-
closured.
Now that said, I can understand the main reason for not doing it, and this is one reason why I don't think a multi-doctor special should be a regeneration episode. Because regeneration episodes, especially, probably the whole time, but especially in the modern era, are especially a wrap-up for that era. So, I mean, this one had a lot of New Who stuff in general because of all the other New Who's people leaving, but especially on the 12th Doctor era and his companions. So it would kind of break that feeling and break that tradition to include have companions featuring a major role from other Doctor eras.
Yeah, I can see that. Because this is also the goodbye to this production team, this particular Doctor staff. You don't want the focus to really be on someone else. I'm surprised they did it with Bradley. But they probably wanted to strike while the iron's hot on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Before Bradley got too old to play the Doctor, which, could happen.
Right.
Could happen sometime in the next few
Especially
years or
since
so.
Google is
Never know.
reporting that he died in 1997,
Seriously?
before the first Harry Potter movie.
Jeez.
What the hell's up with that?
No idea.
Someone
Maybe
in
he-
Google
maybe-
special in the head.
If you search David Bradley age, it says David Bradley age at death, 1945 to 1977, and his age at 1997, then his age at 97 in 1997.
Died December 1997. What the hell? That's really freaking weird. Just
What the heck?
Google David Bradley
I'm
and look up
looking
the
at it.
info box on the right.
Are you sure it's the right David Bradley?
Yes,
His
The right
images
picture
are right
and the
above
and
it.
the right date of birth.
David John Bradley is an English actor. He's best known for playing Argus Filch in the Harry Potter film series.
Which happened
is-
after 97.
Happened in the early 2000s, for crying out loud.
It looks like
Yep.
somebody had put some bad information in Wikipedia, and it was just that bad
Oh.
information was up the last time Google snapshotted Wikipedia.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes me wonder if they've Stan Lee listed as dead.
Don't bring that up. I still have to hurt Bob for that.
I think it's vandalism.
Well, if this is
Vandalism
vandalism, it's been vandalized for quite a while now. You'd think someone would have
Actually,
noticed.
no, it got vandalized today.
Really?
Yeah, because I see the I see the undo history for it.
Ah,
So yeah, somebody
Somebody thinks
put it-
they're a wise ass.
Yep. Somebody's an asshat. Anyway. So we're up to me what I didn't like about the episode. And I have to kind of go with Bill on the writing. Because it felt kind of disjointed. It's kind of like Moffat went, ooh, this is a cool scene, ooh, this is a cool scene, ooh, this is a cool scene. And then had to slog through connecting them. because it's you have some epic scenes like the one where the first Doctor is shown what he will become, and you see all that stuff, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's kind of a cool scene.
And you also see him very confused and slightly horrified.
Yes. So I can see him writing these, but he had to kind of write to connect these scenes, and he didn't get a good job of that because he wasn't really interested in it. Again, that is one of the problems we see
With Moffat.
I've written things like that. I call it an outline, and then I
Then
keep
you
working
flesh it
on
out.
I keep working on it until it has a structure and becomes a draft. Don't
And
know
then you
about
work
Moffat's
on-
process.
Moffat drafts? Huh?
Moffat takes stuff out of the draft phase and into the final product phase way too soon. I mean, it's obvious to me as somebody who does look at people's writing and occasionally have to tell them go back and cook it again, that some of his stuff came out of the oven a little early.
And nobody
he's
told him to
not
cook it.
And somebody and he's not good at telling other people to go back and cook it again. Hence why we've got Journey to the Center of the Crappy TARDIS. Hate that episode. I will say it to no end. But this one, yeah, this needed another run through or two just to smooth it out. Get the pacing right, because the pacing's off. And, change a few things to make it a little less what the fucky. Anyway, best scene, Bill.
Okay, and of course me going first, I'm sure I'm going to take at least one other person's, but I'm going to say the Christmas Armistice. I think that was just handled really well.
Kick you in the dick.
I think that scene was just handled really well, and
Brought a bloody tear to my eye, it did.
Yeah.
All right.
I almost wonder if that's the scene that was written first, and he was like, "How do I make an episode out of this?"
I got a scene that it's gonna give them all the feels.
At the same time, it annoys me. I will bring that up later.
Anyway.
Oh, I think I know why. Because of what we talked about before.
Yep. Bring it up later.
Yeah.
Tim.
Later.
I love the scene where the computer glass lady shows all the bubbles of the all the incarnations of the Doctor and to the first Doctor, like saying.
Okay, Bill and Tim have both earned kick in the dicks now. I'm rapidly running out of scenes that I like. But yeah, that's the scene I just brought up in that last bit there, where he's showing that, and the first Doctor's absolutely horrified by what he's seeing. And all these names for the Doctor, only a few of which we'd heard before. I'm surprised they didn't include the Great Predator and the Bringer of Darkness and all of that. But yeah, that was a good scene. That was, like I said, that was another really good scene. Thomas.
I'm gonna have to go with the Doctor's speech before he regenerates. Just because.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Thomas.
Just because, like, it was what made it finally hit me in the gut that, like, oh shit, this is really happening. Peter Capaldi's leaving, and I actually got a little emotional.
Apparently, Capaldi did co-write that scene, at least according to Den of Geek. So I don't know what their source is, but they claim that that's the scene that he doctored. No pun intended. Pun intended if I had thought about it before I said it.
I have issues with that scene. Mostly it's the fact that he's monologuing at nothing. Takes away some of the emotional impact to me. In comparison, the 11th Doctor scene talking to Clara hit the fact that he was ending, would hit me like a hammer. Even though I'm not very fond of the 11th Doctor, it was still an emotional scene to me. For him saying this to nothing just didn't have the same impact. Even the 10th Doctor's one line to himself of, I don't want to go, had more of an emotional impact to me than this particular scene, just because there was really nothing to emote to. I don't want to go is something you would say to yourself. All of this stuff,
Yeah.
just it was too wordy and verbose for somebody essentially talking to himself.
Well, he's trying to leave mental footnotes for himself.
Yeah, but he's never really had to do it that way before.
Yeah,
I
but
guess-
he's nervous because he's a start of a new generation. He doesn't want to screw it up.
I mean, you could kind of imagine that he remembers like how he had post-regenerative amnesia, or at least whatever he had in Deep Breath, and doesn't want to go through that again. But
As much as
he doesn't-
possible.
that's not that's something that we have to come up with ourselves.
Yeah.
It's not something the script explains.
It's not something that is properly explained like Moffat should have.
It's just, for me, it just didn't have that same wham effect. All right, Matt, how about you? Best scene.
Best scene. First Doctor to 12th Doctor. So this is what it means to be the Doctor of War as they look around at the people around them.
And the armistice scene.
At the armistice and before they part ways. The First Doctor is realizing that not everything is as bad as it first looked. Essentially.
All right. Aaron?
My favorite scene is probably when the First Doctor sees the TARDIS, the new TARDIS, and is like, "Have I been burgled?"
Damn it! I hate all of you. I hate all of you. Go to hell. You go to hell and die.
Or at least Edmonton.
I'm out of scenes now.
You can always go with Snap.
scene, Randy.
And I know we saw that scene in an advanced trailer, but it is still a scene that makes me chuckle every time. Just the dialogue in there, from the "Have I been burgled?" to the "I thought I would be older. I am, or I thought I'd be younger. I am younger." It's just that is a very well written scene.
Mm-hmm.
It is
And
a very-
Mark Gaddis in the background, like, what is this strange VHS tape I'm holding? I have no idea what magic this is.
and the whole World War I. Yeah.
Spoilers, sorry.
Spoilers, yeah. It's a great scene. It's wonderfully done. If only the entirety of the episode was like that. And because all my scenes are taking, I'm passing and we're going to the worst scenes in the episode.
Dun dun dun.
Which I'm probably going to have to pass on too at the rate things are going.
Okay.
Bill.
So I'm sure there are other scenes, but that's fine since I'm going first and I can take a small one anyway. But this one just irked me. And I mean, it's, I guess, kind of the sequence, but mainly the fact that, so he explains he's wearing these sonic sunglasses because they're sonic. So what's the next thing he does? He pulls out a sonic screwdriver because apparently you need 2 sonic devices to read something that's 5 inches in front of your face. And of course, just to top it, the cherry on top is that he can't even explain, oh, this is making a record, this is doing an analysis, yada yada. All he can say is, what, they're sonic, and I think he says something else about it afterward. Actually, no, I think I'm thinking of something else.
They're
but
sonic. There's something
mainly
else.
that, yeah. Like, you don't need 2 sonic devices to read something that's 5 inches in front of your face. The sunglasses can handle it.
Yeah, I'd actually rather just have the screwdriver handle it.
Either one. Like, I can understand, like, they wanted, like, the
No.
they wanted the double
let the
brainy
screwdriver
specs
handle
thing.
it, melt the sunglasses.
I understand they wanted the double brainy specs thing, but put away the screwdriver if you're going to do that.
Yeah, go back to Brainy Specs, because at least Brainy Specs was amusing. The Sonic sunglasses are just a pain in the ass. Or if anything, have them work tandem with the screwdriver. Like the screwdriver is doing stuff, sending signals to the sunglasses, which are displaying them as a form of HUD or something. Kind of like what they did in, what was that, Exodus? Or the first of the,
Oh, the one where he's blind.
Extremis?
Yeah. Not Was it Extremis? Was that the first of the pyramid ones?
It might
Yeah,
have
there's
been.
Extremis.
Yeah.
Yeah, the ones where he was using it as a makeshift sonar in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Still, having that kind of thing where the devices are working in tandem is a lot cooler than trying to have them work separately and independently and use both at the same time.
Mhm.
Kind of moronic. Tim, worst scene.
The worst scene is the Clara scene, I think.
Really?
Yeah, that didn't do much for me.
Well, I like the fact that he got his memories back because that ended that little subplot.
I did think that was weird because it had always come off to me that he was faking losing his memories because I think he mentioned her in other scenes or like referenced things that would have,
He knew she existed,
Mhm.
but couldn't remember the specifics of events or what she looked like. But he knew from his own notes that he had traveled with someone named Clara and that they had done a few things. But that's all he knew.
He couldn't remember face, and he couldn't remember direct dialogue. Only dialogue in between.
Mm-hmm.
I was under the impression that after he left the diner, he gets a message and then he puts two and two together.
No, not really.
No. He might have figured out that might have been Clara, but that was about it. He still didn't have any of his memories back.
Although that said, with my interpretation, like the way I read the scene was that he was like, "Oh, they're trying to give me Clara's memories back. Well, I need to overact the fact that I forgot her because like it seemed kind of like the way he did it came off as kind of disingenuous in the moment, like he was trying to convince the testimony more than actually expressing a real feeling." But that's just my reading. You can definitely disagree.
Okay, Thomas, how about you? Worst scene.
You know what? I'm just kind of blanking, so I think I'll pass. If I think of something, I'll bring it up.
All right. Matt.
Oh. Trying to just pick one. Trying to. There's a couple of things that give me more questions than answers. And then there's also just being downright insulting in front of a person, so I'm gonna go with that. Women are glass. That was just wow, guys. Even for that time.
Yeah. Oh!
Whoa, Tim. Who was that? Was that Tim?
Was that me?
Were you just moving around? Because if you're moving around, we hear every rustle.
Oh.
Yeah. Don't hug your microphone, please. Anyway, you were saying something, Randy?
I always give my microphone a warm, loving hug. Anyway. Microphone. Yeah. It was. I mean, you got to remember this is still like 5 years prior to the beginning of the. Yes, Tim, we're still hearing that. Before the beginning of the suffrage movement really got underway, which was like post World War I, but right in that space.
Oh, so you're talking about for Gaddis, not for Bradley.
It was Bradley and Gaddis.
It was both of them.
I'm saying because for Bradley, it was 1967 at this time, I believe. So that was.
Yeah, but mind you, the Doctor was always an older throwback to more of a Victorian style and dress and everything. So I understand that, but yeah, the Doctor always should have been a little more enlightened than that.
And the Doctor usually was, which is why it's kind of ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, to deliberately say that in such a tone was wrong. Now, if it had been Gaddis's character that said it, and the Doctor going, could be, just as kind of a neither committing nor non-committing to it.
Here's a question. What if they had done this story a little differently, and it was Ian saying that, and then Barbara was the one who shot him down? Do you think that would be any better?
No.
No, that would still be Ian going way too far, especially for
Yeah.
1960s.
Ian
was
a product
younger.
of-
He knew better.
Mhm.
He
I mean,
was
Ian was-
he was
yeah,
30 years old in the 60s.
Right. I mean, you could at least with him, like I think he would say things kind of like that, but like it would be at
He
least
would be a
halfway
lot
tongue
more
in cheek.
subtle. Yeah, he would be a lot more subtle.
Mhm.
Or
Or
a
he
lot
would be
more
saying it to
tongue-in-cheek.
get on Barbara's nerves.
Yes.
Yeah,
or
one of
he'd
the
be
two.
deliberately antagonizing.
Yeah.
More
but-
likely the later, the indirectly antagonizing to get her to do something.
Yeah, that was the casual sexism of that particular comment. That was just, and the
Ugh.
fact that it was the Doctor instigating it
Mm-hmm.
was just wrong.
Hmm.
All right, Aaron.
I'm gonna say, how did Rusty tear his own arm off?
That was my other one.
Like, all he has is a sucker on the side. We don't see him.
I was
eject
laughing
it.
out loud the first time I saw that.
I figured there was some kind of emergency jettison in case a gun
It
overloads.
doesn't
or
The thing
something.
look
is,
like that, though.
It didn't look like it had been ejected. It like wasn't it like sparking? Like it looked
It's
like it had
sparky. It
been torn
looked
off.
like literally like he ripped it
Barking
out.
as if it had been torn out somehow. I
Well, we
wonder.
have- We have seen Daleks do some weird things with those suckers, like
They have been
Crush
getting
a
more
man's
advanced with them as
skull.
time
I know,
has gone
but
on.
he doesn't have elbows. He doesn't have an elbow to reach over and take the sucker.
He dislocated his
Maybe-
own sucker to pull out the gun.
Maybe he telepathically controlled a spider Dalek, made it pull off the arm, throw it, and then hide before the Doctor could come in.
Yeah, you know what I think happened? I think they were going to write it as if the Doctor grabbed his gun and pulled it off.
And then realized
And
that
then
that was
they-
stupid.
They realized that was stupid and just deleted that line, that bit of action in the script, and forgot to put anything in there.
extrapolating on that scene. The Doctor did this under agreement, the fact that Rusty would be able to watch him die. How do you think Rusty feels when he comes out of that time feed?
The time
and the
freezes, the
Doctor's
doctor's just gone.
fucking gone.
Yep.
It's gonna feel gypped.
Although, do we know
I
why
ripped
Rusty
off
wants
my
to see
own
the
suck-
Doctor
I
die?
ripped off my own gun stock for this?
Why,
Yeah,
why
how
does
is
he?
he going to defend himself against the other Daleks now?
He can't pick
Well,
it
he
up
can
anymore.
always put it. However, whatever he used to pull it off, he can use to put it back on. We don't know what that is.
That
but
It's
trained spider Dalek.
sparking.
The trained
Maybe
spider
he's
dog's gonna put it back in.
He used psychic energy to tear it off?
But
Yeah.
no, Rusty's gonna be pissed because the
He
doctor
used
just
static
summoned it up and ran
electricity
out.
and hate.
you
And
underestimate
you
the
can't tell him
dark
otherwise.
side.
Stack electricity. He uses the Force.
Sith Rusty, Jesus.
Well, now that he knows true anger, he'd be hunting the doctor anyways, just to see that death.
Do we have? We don't have any clue why he wants the Doctor dead, right? Like,
Why he wanted to see the doctor dead, and that's because no other Dalek has gotten to see a Time Lord die, as far as I'm aware. At least not
no,
up close
that's
like
not,
that.
That's not why. That's not why. He's still a Dalek.
Mhm.
He's still genetically inclined to hate the Doctor and want to see him dead.
He'd be the one Dalek that got to see the doctor die.
It's just that on top
So
of
he
that,
gets.
he's
So
also...
he not only is he against his own race, he gets kudo points too.
would he be the first Dalek to see the Doctor die?
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than Curse of Fatal Death, yeah.
Yeah, that one doesn't count, obviously.
The only other time the Dalek's gotten close is when the 10th Doctor was knocked on his ass.
But they
Oh,
didn't
that's
get to
true.
see
They shot him, and he started to. Yeah, he went into the TARDIS.
He started to
and
regenerate and then
regenerated
caused his
back
hand to
into himself.
regenerate instead. Yeah.
Other than that, the Daleks haven't been really close when he regenerated.
Mhm.
Yeah, and there
I
was
mean,
never like a,
other than being wiped out by Rose prior to Ninth.
unless you count fake Fifth Doctor, then he might have died in front of a Dalek, but
That doesn't count.
That still doesn't count.
That would make this into a Luke W. Skywalker situation for those who know Star Wars EU, and that's debated enough in the actual thing, so let's not bring it into Doctor Who.
All right, so moving on. As I promised, my least favorite
Mm.
scene is the armistice, which is weird because it's a good scene, but it's also a scene that makes no sense. Not from a historic aspect. I told you that makes sense.
The historic part works, yes.
But the fact that in order to solve the fissure, the man needed to die, according to the timeline. Yet the Doctor fixes it so he doesn't die. Why does that make any different than absconding with the guy in the TARDIS?
That's a very common Doctor Who paradox.
It is, but
It
it's
is,
still
but it's also a
stupid.
sign of Moffat screwing up.
It's still stupid. It's stupid logic.
Because Moffat believes that nobody should ever die.
Yes.
Again,
That's-
him going for more of a fairy tale instead of an actual solid sci-fi series.
I could just imagine, like, the first season of Chibnall, they're like some sort of like force of temporal force of nature just kills like 1 million people, and it's all because of the people that the Doctor pulled out of time.
We know that he starts with like 3 companions. I
Or
want to see
she's gonna
Chibnall.
start.
She's gonna start. Yeah,
They die one by one.
When I said he, I meant Chibnall's era.
Oh,
so,
Chibnall's era is going to start with 3 companions, yeah.
He's starting them with 3 companions. I want to see all of them dead by the end of that.
Oh
First
God!
Most grimdark season of modern Who ever.
Whole new era of Doctor Who.
And a whole
And they're
new
not-
era of the grimdark Doctor.
They're not dead, as in transported back in time or locked in another universe.
No, they're fucking
They're
dead.
freaking dead.
They're not immortal with no heartbeat.
I want to see one blown out into space of a spaceship without a suit, another
Katarina.
gunned down by Daleks,
Um,
And another one just tossed
another
into a
turned
blender.
into a Cyberman, and the Doctor, and she's forced to kill that one.
Blender.
has a companion ever been shot by? I feel like one should have been, but I can't remember one.
Shot by a Dalek?
Yeah,
Shot and killed by a Dalek? There's been a couple of like background characters, but not
right.
a companion. The closest would be Sarah Kingdom died to a Dalek weapon.
Okay, that's true. She was killed by Daleks. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
What about Katarina?
and how
No, she's just sucked out into space.
she kind of killed herself by ignorance, kind of.
Partially
how did Brett
ignorance,
Vian
partially saving the Doctor. What was that, Bill?
How did Brett Vian die?
Brett.
I don't know. I don't think he's ever really considered a companion.
It's weird. He's not, but as people argue, he was literally as much of a companion as Sarah. Like, he served in the TARDIS for the same amount of time
Just about.
during the same serial. And I think the main reason he's not is because his actor is so much more loved for another character, which is something I forgot about. I guess it just didn't fit into my specific top favorites, but I want to mention it later.
Yeah, I can't remember how he dies. You're asking me how somebody dies in like the world's worst, longest, and least complete episode.
And he probably died.
I think he got killed, but I don't think it was Daleks. I think it was somebody working under the Daleks. I want to say, but not entirely sure on that. It's been a while. Anyway,
Yeah, I can't answer that question.
so that was worst scenes.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Bill. I do not have a complete encyclopedia.
No, I know. I'm not
every
expecting
minor
anyone.
character.
I'm not expecting anyone to know everything. That's fine.
I do kind of have something for a worst scene now. It's only like a small portion of a thing, but the actual like impetus of the regeneration, that effect just looks so crap. So like maybe it's just me, but it looks like really cheaply done compared to the other ones we've seen.
You mean the
so
glow
far
effect
in
or
New Who.
the?
Like when it's like shooting out everywhere, like it looks like there's like beams of it in it, but they look
The
really
fountain.
just crap. Like I don't know
Well, it
why,
looks like
but
the
they
same
just
effect
really
they've been
crap.
using since the start of New Who.
No,
is my
he's
argument.
right. It doesn't. It doesn't look that way because if you take a look at like David Tennant's regeneration, which is closest, it's almost like a Phoenix effect where it's just
Yeah, it's a
almost
little
like
more flame to that, and yeah,
Yeah.
and this one just
Like-
seemed like a dry fountain.
I think it was.
Mm.
I'm wondering if it's the same used for River's regeneration. Because that one was
I don't
kind of
know.
a bit more like sudden and short, and not as elaborate as the 10 to 11.
Either way, I mean, it just didn't feel right, especially with what they were
Yeah.
trying to do for it.
Hmm.
Especially with all the
Like
build
the
up
actual
for it.
like changeover in it was nice, like the change between, but the actual
The
effect-
glow effect.
was like really. It seems like they've spent all their money for the series elsewhere, and they were like, "Oh, we don't have enough
Oh,
money to
well.
like make this look great."
hmm
Or he was just like, it's my last day on the fucking job.
Mm.
I don't
Yeah.
care.
I don't care. Goodbye. Good luck.
Which is hilarious because the previous regeneration was like way more intense, but then when the actual switchover happened, it was like 2 seconds.
Well, not even. It was
Yeah,
literally a split second. He leaned down and
never
stood
liked
back up.
that. I never liked that.
Yeah, that one. Actually, to be honest, that one was even cheaper and a little too sudden.
Yeah, it
Eh,
really
to be
was.
honest, I kind of preferred it because I was hoping for a new regeneration style thing of some sort. Because I was like, okay, we've got a new cycle. Can we at least get a new effect?
We'll see. We'll have to see what happens in a few years at the end of Jodie Whittaker's run.
Mm.
Whether they're
Of course,
whether
I'm
the
also
new...
kind of disappointed. I'm also kind of disappointed that we didn't have We've now had like 3 doctors standing up.
Yeah.
Regenerate.
Actually,
So
matter of fact,
kinda
I was
hoping
actually
for
just going to
him
mention that. I was kind of
kneeling or-
hoping that Peter Capaldi would have, when he fell down, was stayed down and kind of almost copied the first Doctor a little.
That would have been nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But however, I
Yeah.
think whatever CGI effect they use for this regeneration effect works better if the actor's upright.
I did see one major classic Who fan that's not as big of a modern Who fan, a critic, mentioning, can't these modern doctors learn, when they're dying to lie down?
Because they're doing so much damage when they're standing up.
Yeah, I think it's a limitation of the CGI effect they're using.
Well, then they
at
need
the
to learn
very
to
least,
use
in,
something
like,
else.
I guess a fountain that's lying down isn't as effective, but maybe they could do something
Well,
other than a fountain.
Doesn't even need to be a
it's not
fountain. Just
dramatic
be a
enough.
glow effect.
Yeah, it needs what they need to do is do kind of the old double image with the same
Yeah.
kind of golden glow effect, but it's not dramatic enough. Like
Screw that. It's not dramatic
other
enough.
hand, I
The drama comes out of the characters' reactions to everything.
Right.
Come on.
yeah,
Maybe if they wouldn't drop off his companion every time right before he regenerates, we could get some drama out of character interaction.
Yeah, instead
Anyway.
of making a stupid explosion.
Yeah.
This is
even
a
like kneeling down could have worked for that
Right.
effect.
Anyway.
What's next?
Anyway, as I was saying, that's a good segue of going into what did we think about Jodie Whittaker's first scene. And again, Bill, you are first on this.
So,
your opinions on it.
I liked how they kind of like teased parts of her before actually going on to the full facial. Otherwise, and God, I just realized how badly that could be interpreted out of context.
Facial.
But otherwise, I mean, she,
Tim, mute your goddamn microphone.
Otherwise, yeah, of course we didn't really see enough to get any characterization. I'm not entirely sure, or actually, and I in the moment I'm too focused on the visuals. I saw an article mentioning that the cloister bells are ringing, and I watched it twice, and I didn't actually notice it either time. But
The cloister bells
that's
were
not
ringing.
to say they weren't
The
there.
cloister bell started to ring right about the point that he accepted the regeneration, and they never stopped for the rest of the scene.
So we don't necessarily know why that is, or why the TARDIS randomly threw the Doctor out.
The cloister bells just ring every time he
it's-
regenerates at this point.
Unless it's a situation of the regeneration energy is so damaging that the TARDIS is in danger because of it, and
That's a
therefore
possibility.
expelled the Doctor. Hopefully they do something meaningful with that cliffhanger with the next episode, and it's not just all of a sudden the Doctor's fine, despite having been launched into the air over what looks like London.
Well, if this was still Stephen Moffat, they would have.
Yeah. I also hope that the next episode doesn't start with meeting like a young boy in his yard who's praying for an angel or something.
Please save me from the crack in my wall. Thud. Thank you.
Yes.
God.
Dear Santa, please give me a date to the prom. Thud.
Oh,
Thank
God.
you.
Oh God.
I don't know. I do get kind of a feeling from this one, but I'll let Bill finish.
I think that's basically it. Yeah, her one line of dialogue sounded kind of 10th Doctor-ish, but a lot can change between the first and second lines of dialogue.
Okay. Okay. Let's move on to Tim. You can speak again, Tim. As long as you're not wrestling.
Ah.
Okay, we shall ignore Tim and move on.
Wait.
I think someone just inhaled Tim's microphone.
Hello?
Yeah, we
Yes,
hear you, Tim.
Okay. I thought Jodie Whittaker's very first scene was an interesting thing. Up to I thought her first word as the Doctor was a good choice.
What'd she say?
Brilliant.
Oh, brilliant. She
Ah,
said,
okay.
oh, brilliant.
And-
I know because I had to replay it to make sure because Aaron was trying to figure out what she said.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I thought it was sort of like you were saying about how it was like a repeat of the 10th Doctor. Doctor's regeneration thing.
Felt same, yeah.
I would have liked a little more of that like 10th Doctor style self-examination. All right,
10th or 11th, yeah.
Yeah, 10 fingers, 10 toes. Nose seems to be pretty good.
Hair. I have lots and lots of hair.
Mm-hmm.
All on my head. Wait a
But
second.
it's still not ginger.
Hair. Do I have a pixie cut? Yeah. Yeah, I would have loved that look in the mirror, and I would have loved the first line to been, well, this is new. Just that non-committal, not sure if this is good or this is bad, but willing to wait it out.
But I like the fact that she seemed excited and positive about this development.
All right.
And also the other fact that once again the regeneration seems to have destroyed the TARDIS was kind of
Like I said, I'll be depressed about that for the rest of the year.
That's the next set is like super brilliant and well done.
Because I loved that TARDIS. That set was beautiful.
Yeah.
They better do a good job. Is that it, Tim?
Anything
That's
further,
it.
Tim? Okay, Thomas.
Honestly, like the whole setup of it, where it's just like the smoke clearing and stuff, was like just a really cool shot for one thing. And the subtle, you don't have to have the Doctor point out the change because like the ring slips off her finger because it's like well done like different size fingers. And to be honest, I actually liked that there was no. Like, that's one thing that made this separate enough, even though I said earlier that it was kind of annoying that this was kind of a retread of the Tennant to Smith transition. The fact that she didn't really take it in fully as far as, oh, I have new this, whatever. It was just kind of a, oh, this is cool. And then, like, shit happens before she really has a time to fully take in what's just happened. Though I must admit that like at the end of it, I was kind of like, wow, okay, that's an interesting cliffhanger. She's falling to her death, apparently.
Shortest regeneration ever. She falls to her death and regenerates into a guy within the first 5 minutes. Yeah. Lowest hype ever.
Yeah, generally, yeah, like, the fact that it wasn't the typical regeneration of these new ones where they're always checking themselves to see what's changed and what hasn't, when it's kind of obvious. As soon as she kind of sees her own reflection, sort of, in the monitor, is like, oh, okay. And yeah, just like, I think the whole thing was done pretty well, aside from the fact, obviously, that it's like, oh, we're going through this again with the regeneration screwing up the TARDIS.
All right, Matt.
My feelings on this? Okay, we see Jodie Whittaker. Okay, she thinks it's cool. She takes off and she's flung out the TARDIS. I really don't have any feelings about her right now.
All right.
It seems like she seems to have bounced back relatively quick, which is nice to see instead of the long, droning episode where the Doctor takes forever to get over it. But we'll have to see now because she's getting tossed.
Yeah, and you never know when that suddenly hits. Remember, Tennant seemed fine for about 5 minutes before
suddenly breaking down too. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Same with Capaldi.
Oh, the Capaldi never seemed to be all together the entire time.
Yeah, he was already screwed up within the first minute when he had to ask, "You know how to fly this thing?"
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, how about you?
I am pleased that they don't have the long amnesiac kind of bit going on. I'm wondering if they're going to take this to where she lands on Earth and it's going to be pretty much an alien on Earth type deal, where she runs into a bunch of humans who try to hide her from, some sort of authority, possibly even the Time Lords. I don't know, because she seemed ecstatic about the change, more so than just the fact that she's changed her sex, but the fact that it's such a thorough disguise. That's kind of how I felt about her reaction. Is that it's like, oh, brilliant! I can go anywhere, I can do anything. No one's going to recognize me in this body. And that's
I think you're reading too much into it.
Yeah, that's really reading a lot.
I'm really looking into what you thought of the scene itself, not where it's going.
Well, there's not really much to the scene.
Exactly my thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anything, I would think maybe, especially considering the episode, I'm wondering if the brilliant might be, oh, I'm not 50 this time.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, that could be just literally it.
Hmm.
Hey, I'm not old. I'll read the rest later. Let's go. Boom. Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's still way too early to try to even predict where they're going with this.
Like you mentioned with the the amnesia, that's something that we wouldn't have even seen a hint of yet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Just the way that the TARDIS dumps her out, I can see it as being an Earthbound Doctor, kind of like with how the Third's first season went.
Again,
no.
Too early to see. Because there's always the moment of adventure, then the key lights up and the TARDIS is back.
Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just like super ecstatic because I predicted that the Lethbridge Stewart was tied into this.
Yeah.
2 months ago, in fact, I believe.
Yep. Oh yeah, I think we forgot to do that after the summary.
Anyway, so
that's it for me. Yep.
So my thoughts on Jodie Whittaker: she seemed to have a lot of enthusiasm going into this. Like Bill, she did kind of seem to hit me as kind of almost a female Tennant in personality. She had that same kind of manic enthusiasm to what we saw of her. I mean, this may not be a permanent thing. This could just be her acting off the cuff as it was. But it looked, if that's what we get, is a female manic enthusiast doctor, kind of like I said, a female Tennant, I'm all for that. That'll make me happy because I've always said Tennant was my favorite doctor, and it was seeing almost those same expressions on Jodie Whittaker. I'm just like, oh, please let it be so. Oh, please,
Yeah.
oh, please, oh, please, oh, please.
And it
We'll
would be
see.
such a difference from her past roles, at least the ones that I've seen.
Yeah. Where she's
Her-
playing usually a mousy, introverted character, and
Mm-hmm.
just
So
letting her
you've been
go
telling
full
us.
extrovert. Yeah. At the same time, like I said, I wasn't too fond of the "oh, brilliant" being the first words. I would have loved a more this is new, kind of thoughtful on it. Kind of
Maybe she's supposed to complain about a body part.
She was supposed to mention that she's still not ginger.
Kidneys, ears, hair. Yeah.
I'm just kind of glad she didn't look down and mention she now has etheric beam locators.
Or Dalek bumps.
Or that her sonic.
Oh, I
screwdriver
just
now
realized
has
in this-
three thi-
They
What?
mentioned nipples like 2 scenes before that,
Yeah,
and then
glass
he becomes a
nipples on
woman.
Nardo.
That's
Of all people.
Oh, Matt Lucas probably just ad-libbed that line too.
Just for lulls.
Might have just been
There's
in the
one
script,
line
Matt
just so he
Lucas
could get
bees
something
Matt
in.
Lucas for 2 minutes. Anyway, though, no, I liked the enthusiasm. I just wish that the lines were a little bit more neutral. Just kind of a, we'll see how this goes. But still, awesome,
her job is to build up hype for the next episode.
Yeah.
While falling.
Getting flung out of the TARDIS was good enough to build hype for the next episode. Thus said, I am looking forward to the beginning of Series 11 because I really want to see where this goes. Not willing to make predictions yet.
Not willing to make predictions, crossing fingers that this is not going to be something
I mean,
he'll turn in the wrong direction.
I know we'll have to by the con, but still.
Yeah.
Please.
Hopefully there's some news by then.
That's freaking like 9 months away. There better be some news. But yeah, it's leaving me with a hopeful, positive look. Okay. Final thoughts. And guess
right.
what? We've got 12 minutes left.
Bill, go.
All right, so some great scenes in this episode. Some also not as great scenes, and some definite structural issues. There was a lot of good callbacks, although I kind of wished when the whole Lethbridge Stewart thing was mentioned that he had been that they had kind of done some sort of wrap up to the Brett and to Nicholas Courtney playing Brett. You'd be like, oh, did you know that you've met, one of his long descendants or whatever, just like an off-the-cuff line like that.
Bad Bill.
Bad Bill,
Bill
you're stretching too far.
Just some sort of...
it's
some
just
sort of
another case
closure.
of you saying that they got to be related because it's the same actor. No.
Well, they have to address it in some way, so...
No,
yeah.
they don't.
But... yeah, like I said, some very good scenes, some definitely not as good scenes, and some structural issues kind of muddling the whole thing. So it comes off somewhere toward the middle.
All right. Tim?
I liked this episode.
Of course you did.
Well, I'm sorry, but it's Christmas, and I'm in an even more
Charitable.
charitable mood.
Timmy mood.
Any mood. I thought David Bradley's performance was good, and his interaction with Peter Capaldi and Pearl Mackie were very entertaining. And a special note, I did like the way they did the bookend of the first Doctor's story by sort of seeking from the original footage of William Hartnell into...
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, it reminded me of the beginning of Star Trek 3.
Kind of.
Kinda.
Like not exactly, but sort of like just like the way they went from like the square box to like the widescreen,
Mm-hmm.
green and the black and white, from black and white to color, and then they brought it back by switching back to the original footage. Was very cool, and this does give me hope for Jodie Whittaker.
All right. Thomas?
I kind of wish I'd got to see this a second time, but I kind of woke up too late. But and as far as initial thoughts go, while this was definitely flawed, we could have gotten worse. So, like, at least even if he goes out, even if Stephen Moffat has gone out on kind of a note, it could have been a wow, this is terrible kind of note. So at least, like, yeah, I'm just glad that I actually enjoyed this.
So
Like,
Thomas's official final thought: it could have been worse.
yeah.
Wow. What an
Matt?
endorsement.
Yeah, your go.
My go. And by the way, Randy, we've lost your audio. I think we're hearing you through Aaron. That you just got really quiet for some reason. Either way.
Oh no, it's
Your
I
microphone's
moved
up. Okay.
My microphone was moved. Yeah.
So final thoughts. The writing is very 50-50. Thankfully, the good parts shine through harder than the really bad ones. They do leave things open-ended, maybe a little too much. I would like a few more moments with Jodie Whittaker just to see where she was going with this before just suddenly tossing her out the door, literally. But
Yeah.
and I also agree with the sentiment that being in the hands of Moffat, this could have been a hell of a lot worse. So for what it is, it's not that bad.
All right.
It could
Aaron?
have been so much worse.
Yeah, it could have been worse. I do think they kind of messed up. They missed a few chances to really kind of get really deep with this. By inviting Susan back, by doing a bunch of other stuff, maybe doing some more rewrites and changing how the glass people work and like what exactly is going on with them instead of just them being memory canisters. Yeah, I guess it's okay. It's a mediocre episode, and unfortunately, because it's a regeneration episode, you're gonna probably have to watch it in order to catch up with Jodie Whittaker stuff.
You're going to have to see it 100 times because all regeneration episodes are watched 100 times. I've even seen Time of the Doctor a few times, and I more or less hate that episode. I don't despise it with a passion, but I don't.
Are you talking
like
about
it.
Time or Night of the Doctor?
No, Time of the Doctor, the one that went after Day.
That's Night of the Doctor.
No,
isn't it?
Night of the Doctor.
Night of the Doctor
is
is
the one before.
8th Doctor
Night of the
regeneration.
Doctor is the 8th Doctor.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it went Name of the Doctor, which was the end of the 7th series. Night of the Doctor, with that other little Gallifrey little mini clip.
I was thinking of Name of the Doctor was beforehand. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, I'm talking Time, which is that last episode there. The one where they wound up naked in holographic clothes, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Cringe, Bill, cringe.
Yeah, that one was not great, but I've seen it a lot because it comes up again when you're watching end of era, beginning of era stuff. So you'll wind up seeing this one 100 times. Any further thoughts, Aaron?
No, that's it.
Okay, so my thoughts is that, yeah, this is a heaping bag of mediocre. There are some really good scenes in this. There are also some pretty lousy scenes in this, or some scenes that really needed to go back for another run-through. And it suffers from, kind of thin connective tissue in a couple of places. It was something that really should have had more time, but then again, in its defense, Stephen Moffat didn't have a lot of time to write it. So, based on that, I have to agree it could have been worse. But I'm not going to give it bonus points for that.
Nope.
All right. So we now go to our ratings on it. And Bill, you are up first. Bill has been our regular hater, so...
Hater.
I think I'm coming to a 3.5 on this one.
3.5. All right. And Tim, our resident lover.
Well, this wasn't time lash, so I'm giving it 0 stars. I'm just kidding.
Nope, you said it. I'm recording it. 0, 0.
No! Good, Tim. Reverse it.
I don't know. I'm actually going to agree with Bill and give this 3.5 stars.
Wow. All right.
The trend is going to keep going because I agree with them.
Chugga.
I said I liked it. I didn't say I loved it.
Matt, how about you?
Choo. 3.5.
Oh, dear God. Oh, dear God. Aaron.
Well, I'm going to buck the trend, and by trend I mean my trend of disagreeing with everyone and going with 3.5 stars.
Chugga.
Gooble gobble, gooble gobble. We will make you one of us.
Okay. I have to ask. If I don't put down 3.5, I have to sleep in the van tonight, don't I?
Well, I'm not sleeping in the bedroom. I sleep on the recliner nowadays. It's more comfy.
Yeah, no, that's not what I meant. I meant I'm going to be in a heap of trouble.
Waiting.
You'd be in the caboose. You're going to be put in the caboose end. It's either that or you're the conductor that's playing on his phone while the train derails. How's that for a Christmas thought?
I'm the one doing an 80 and a 30 zone. Because you see, I was thinking about giving this a 3.0. Because I kind of felt it was middle of the road. And I find enough good about it to bump it up to a 3.5.
I've been burgled.
I've been burgled is good. And as much as I have to, what I like and don't like about the Armistice kind of balances each other out back to a flat 3.
It's a tie between good Moffat and evil Moffat, but then Talayla gives it that 0.5 for me.
I am going to give it that 0.5 with my hope for Jodie Whittaker coming off of the finale. Because
3.5.
So, with a solid 3.5 from the panel, the average for it is 4. No. I've skewed the ratings. Screw you all. No. Nope. It comes to an average of 3.5, which will sort to wherever 3.5 is in our sort range.
Barely above average.
I'm not even sure where that is in our sort range anymore. We've had some
There we
crawlers
go.
added to the list. It is actually well below average. Still. Twice Upon a Time comes in at number 152 of 229.
Oof.
It is on the same level as Eaters of Light, Jubilee, Planet of the Dead, Jago and Lightfoot, The Similarity Engine, The Christmas Invasion, go fig, The Time Machine, Death Steal, City of Death, Jago and Lightfoot, The Belova Devil, Mark of the Rani, and A Town Called Mercy, which it's good company there. It is better than The Five Doctors, Terra Firma, Doctor Who and the Daleks, Bloodless Soldier, The Androids of Terra, Silver Nemesis, and Destiny of the Doctor, Night of the Whisper, and is not as good as Class Detained. Wow, Class is better than this. Detained was one of the best.
Detained was the
Class.
best episode of that series.
The Doctor, The Widow, The Wardrobe, The Woman Who Lived, Tomb of the Cybermen, Full Circle, Resurrection of the Daleks, and Sarah Jane Adventures, The Gift. So there we go. 150, where was it? 152 out of 229. That's all we have to say about Twice Upon a Time. Bill.
All right. So if I enjoy listening to us, please like us on YouTube and at twitch.tv/unearthlypodcast. You can also follow us for news and updates at facebook.com/unearthlypodcast and twitter.com/unearthlypod. And if you want to support us, you can head on over to patreon.com/unearthlypodcast.
All right. So that will wrap us up for the year. We will not be coming at you on Wednesday. We will be taking our annual end-of-year break, spending some time with our families, or just recouping in general. Instead, we will be back on January 3rd with Anthony Ainley's final appearance as the Master, not to mention the final regularly televised episode of Classic Who, in Survival, written by Rona Munro and starring Sylvester McCoy as the Doctor and Sophie Aldred as Ace. This will be particularly interested because I know at least a couple members of the cast has never seen this episode before.
Been meaning to for a long time.
Aaron, I don't think has seen it either.
I either did or a long time ago I might have on PBS. Assuming it showed on PBS.
So this will be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
We will see you on the 3rd. Have a good New Year and a good rest of your... Well, I guess technically it's the 26th now.
Yeah.
Have a good rest of your Christmas vacation.
Good night.
Good night.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.